Now, as we progress through the 21st century and the era of civil rights movements, there are far fewer instances of senseless violence or human rights violations going on around the world each day, which is obviously a good thing. Now, schools are no longer segregated, women can vote, gay couples can marry, but one very heinous act of just senseless violence, it really boggles my mind how something this barbaric, so savage, primitive, tribal, brutish, backwards, and dreadful continues to be not only accepted and tolerated in the 21st century, but even wholeheartedly embraced by certain communities. Some people see it as a necessary part of their religion or culture. Others claim it makes them feel more connected to God, closer to divinity, or connected to their ancestors. Like, since the practice, this human rights violation has been considered a tradition for many, many generations, going back possibly centuries. Centuries, and still others who are less faithful claim that it is one of the great public health measures of the 21st century, which improves public safety. Or even less faithful people, they just claim, well, in the name of tribal conformity, since I happen to live in a place and time where a lot of other people do it. Of course, the human rights violation I'm referring to is a forced genital cutting or circumcision or genital mutilation. Now, the current situation is that in the majority of countries, basically every country that is not Muslim majority country, female genital cutting is strictly prohibited. It has been criminalized, and people have gone to prison for it. But in absolutely no country anywhere in the world is there any restriction or regulation on the practice of male genital cutting, commonly referred to as circumcision in the United States. Now, the thing is, none of those excuses or justifications that I mentioned give any regard to the autonomy and decision making of the child or the individual who is receiving the circumcision. Obviously, just like any other elective surgery, since circumcision is not medically necessary, it's something that is chosen just like breast implants or a tummy tuck, since it is basically a cosmetic procedure, which, yes, I've heard many medical practitioners say that it is just cosmetic. It's just as cosmetic as a nose ring or earrings. Since this isn't medically necessary, it really doesn't make any sense why the parents or any other adults would have the right or any power to just make the decision for the child and, have their own choice, the choice of the parents or some other adult be more important than the child's choice, because obviously the parents, they aren't affected, or they aren't really affected because the surgery is not affecting them, and it doesn't really affect the health of their child. It's not better, worse. And of course, the child is the one affected. It's his body being operated on. So it would really only make sense for the final decision to be up to the child who is receiving the genital cutting. Now, most of you would be absolutely shocked to find out that in the United States, the practice of female ejaculation or female circumcision was perfectly legal up until 1996. And at one point, it was considered a standard medical procedure that helped to prevent or treat hysteria and nymphomania, diseases that are not really considered valid anymore. Now, many people have pointed out that the state where female genital cutting is heavily criminalized, while male genital cutting really has no restrictions or regulations, this reinforces gender stereotypes. It reinforces the idea that female bodies are intrinsically dainty, fragile, and highly vulnerable and in need of protection, while male bodies are strong, bold, resilient, and even in need of testing. And some other people have pointed to the fact that circumcision, the practice of male genital cutting being quite common in the United States, also reinforces rape culture. So, since circumcision is really an assault on a person's body by doing something to a person's body without their consent, and it does affect a sexual part of the body, this re-emphasizes to men that they don't control their body, and as long as you're bigger and stronger than someone else and like you can control them, then you can just do whatever you want to that person without their consent. So I mean, what values about body autonomy, consent, and violence against the body are we giving men if on their first, second, or eighth day of life their body autonomy and consent was violated? And unfortunately, most Americans do not realize that the practice of forced genital cutting in the United States, it did not become a common part of the general public until the 1930s. So, from the 1770s until the late 20s, it really wasn't, people didn't have a problem with the natural foreskin or just how it is naturally. And during the 1930s and also 1920s, doctors, evangelical doctors such as John Harry Kellogg and Sylvester Graham, they promoted the practice of circumcision as to cure masturbation, because at the time, what was considered a great public hysteria, or what was the main public hysteria at the time, was masturbation. So many people, they strongly believe, they truly believe that masturbation was like the worst end possible, and it caused like an imbalance in the body, which led to lots of diseases such as like blindness, schizophrenia, arthritis, and a bunch of other stuff. And they thought it was like a great the main public ill, the cause of all public ills, and great public evil. So yes, originally circumcision was used as a way to cure masturbation, whatever that means. And throughout history, I guess, as the main public hysteria changed, like cancer, then UTIs, then like STDs such as like gonorrhea and syphilis, and then currently HIV. The medical industry, the people that sell circumcision have really just flipped the script, and they've said, instead of preventing masturbation, like it prevents UTIs or it prevents cervical cancer in female partners and whatever, which And there really is very little evidence to support all this, but I digress. When it all comes down to it, circumcision or forced cutting is a elective surgery, meaning it is not medically necessary. And just like any other elective procedure, the final decision should be up to the person whose body is ultimately affected by this, which in this case would be the child or the young boy that was just born. And again, I want to reinstate the fact that, obviously children cannot consent. They're too young to give their consent, but once they become an adult, once they reach adulthood and can fully understand stuff, then they do have the ability to consent to elective surgeries. And the thing is, rights such as physical integrity and self-determinism, and also religious freedom and bodily autonomy, are guaranteed by human rights documents such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the Convention Against Torture. So I hope that as children, as the rights of children become more respected and they gain rights in bodily autonomy, then adults will not feel compelled to violate the rights of others, which include violating the rights of other adults, which is obviously criminal behavior.